going on? How's everyone doing?
Shout out to Colin. Everybody else who's cool with Colin.
Chucky, I didn't say.
Get your popcorn, your Coca-Cola, and relax.
Anyway, tell Colin I'm ready.
What's going on? This is Colin. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. Hope you guys are all having a great week. Hope you guys had a great week. And yeah, let's enjoy the weekend. I've got a very special show for you tonight. As you can tell, I'm all dressed up. Got my tie on. I'm ready to go. Got an interview tonight. It's a very special guest. But before we get into the special show, I don't know if everyone knows who Isiah Williams is. So the special guest is, or was, I guess I should say, was a juror on the Isiah Williams trial. So for everyone who doesn't know, I put a little video together. It's about 8 minutes long, kind of summarizing who Isiah Williams is. Now, I did take a lot of clips from other channels. So I have every channel that I used, every video I used is in the comment section or the description of the video. So please check them out if you want to see their whole view on what happened. So you guys ready? You guys ready to watch them court? Before I hit this play button, you know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe. Do your jump kick backflips. Let's go.
Olisa Williams wasn't even a year old when she went missing in 1982. As her mother, Denise Frazier Daniel, tells it, a now ex-husband, Isiah Williams, took Olisa by force from a Cincinnati, Ohio home on April 29th that year.
I was at my friend's house, and a friend that he didn't really like or whatever, but anyway, he had came to the residence, and I answered the door, and he started arguing with me, and then he knocked me down, and he took Olisa, because I had her in my arms, and he had took her out of my arms, and he ran with her.
Williams, though not a biological parent, was listed on Olisa's birth certificate, and the authorities who fielded Frazier Daniel's frantic calls said he had equal rights to the child. But on July 9th, back in the Ann Arbor area, Williams was served with a request for financial support and a court order to produce Olisa. According to a different ex-wife's account to police, he drove away about 2 or 3 a.m. July 10th and returned without Olisa about 11 a.m. He then loaded the baby's belongings into the car and drove the ex-wife to work. Police records indicate that was the last time Olisa was seen by someone other than Isiah Williams. He'd tell a judge months later that he'd been smoking marijuana and drinking while driving with the child in the summer of 1982 when he parked in the area of Island Park in Ann Arbor and fell asleep. He woke to find Olisa gone, he said. Williams now claims he has no memory from the time frame due to a head injury he sustained in a car crash. Still, police and Frazier Daniel remain hopeful they'll get answers one day.
The case of the people versus Isiah Williams. Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Danielle Russo-Bennett, Department of Attorney General, on behalf of the people.
Pretty Judge Torshell Feaster, Assistant Public Defender, on behalf of Mr. Isiah Williams. Mr. Williams, please state your name for the record.
Isiah Williams, pro purpose Sonic. I've explained to the court, Your Honor, that I told Mr. Brown, and as I have stated,
Mr. Williams, Mr. Williams, I'll tell Judge what's going on. Just give me 1 second, okay?
Well, I'm trying to explain it because you haven't been able to do so, Your Honor. That's why I'm saying it, because this officer, this attorney here before you, something is wrong here because we have a lack of communication. I keep taking right into their people and writing and telling them, you understand, and I read it. Hey, look.
I'm going to tell the judge that you want to go and
who is the Chief Public Defender's Office in Washington County on April the 22nd. Then I've written her again, you understand, another copy just last week.
And there is a couple of points, thank you, Judge, and I do appreciate the court sending that to me. And I think that we're going to have to make a record on this, whether or not Mr. Williams is really competent, in fact, to represent himself. You did make it clear to him at the last hearing that if he does choose to go forward on his own behalf, he has to serve the people. He did not serve us with any of those motions. So I do appreciate the court sending that to us. I think the court statute and the case law is very clear that he has a right to. However, it must be knowingly and intelligently done, and that the court is going to have to make him aware of the pitfalls, the dangers, the disadvantages of what that really entails. He does not have an absolute right as well to question the victims in this case. And so I think that's the Daniels case. I bring that up for a very specific reason, and maybe Mr. Williams needs to hear this as well. Mr. Feaster is aware that I did file a very substantial, extensive other acts notice with the court way back in January, and served it upon Mr. Feaster. It is extensive in that the people have put the parties on notice that I intend to produce an extensive amount of domestic violence and sexual assault evidence at the exam.
Well, you understand, sir, that I am not here to offer you any legal advice. That's one of the reasons that you were appointed an attorney. So that if you don't understand something, it won't be up to me to educate you as to that.
Excuse me if I get that.
All right, I do want to give a quick shout out to Michigan Crime Time. I don't think that they're still active on their channel. I found a lot of the older stuff on their channel, but I want to give them the proper shout out. Their link is in the description if you want to go see. They have a lot of the early Isiah Williams stuff in court in front of Judge Simpson. And also, what was it? Live M, I think, is where I got that video from at the start. So I need to give proper shout outs, but their links are in the description if you want to go check them out.
Impression that I was looking for you to do that. No, I was only asking that you provide what you've been appointed for. That's all I'm asking from you. I didn't think that I was asking anything else. Now, if I maybe need to reiterate what I was saying to make it more plain, that I'm willing to understand your taking deal here, whatever you do has been acceptable in the court because you have been put in that position. And the Holy Spirit tells me you've been appointed by God, so I know you're going to do God's will. I claim that. Now, I'm not going to ask you to take and give me the law or teach me. I'm just asking you to take and do what you feel is yes. And I'm going to stand here and listen. And
okay, well, Mr. Williams, in listening to you, what if I felt that the just thing to do would be to make sure that you had an attorney representing you? What would you say to that? And that you get every opportunity to consult with Ms. Woodson to make sure that all of the questions that you want asked are asked.
A case goes, well, the child allegedly went missing in 82. Detective Canada took over the case in 2021. I don't believe.
Again, we're skipping through a bunch of stuff. Now we actually got to my video that I put on him, and we're almost finished with this. There's only about 30 seconds left, and then let's go on for the interview. Let's go.
It was still a missing person case at that point. Therefore, I don't think that the prosecution has offered enough to show that the defendant was not prejudiced and his due process rights were not violated.
Okay. All right. To determine whether a delay in arrest amounts to a due process violation requiring dismissal, a two-part balancing test should be applied pursuant to People v. Bizard on 114 Mishap 784 from 1982. First, the defendant must show some prejudice, and then the people must show that the reason for the delay is sufficient to justify whatever prejudice resulted. After review of the brief submitted, the defendant hasn't shown any actual prejudice has resulted, and the people appear to be more at a disadvantage because of the delay in prosecution. This court agrees with the prosecutor's analysis here. There's been no prejudice shown to defendant if any side has been disadvantaged as the prosecutor. The investigation has been ongoing since 1982. Several witnesses for the prosecution have died. This impacts their case in chief, not the defendant's ability to meaningfully defend against this charge. There's no tactical advantage to the people, and they have a mighty case to present. A circumstantial homicide with no body. The motion is denied, and I'm going to request that we have an order entered by the end of the day. So, Ms. Kracher, if you can submit that order, we'll sign it, and we'll be ready to go to trial. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
What's going on? Yeah, buttons are hard. Buttons are hard. All right. Mary. I was up there twice because the last part before the jury trial was my video. Also, yeah, Mary Brown, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Before we get started, this will be the only super chat I'll be reading because we're about to start this interview. But since you sent it early, thank you so much, Mary Brown. I appreciate it. You're so talented, reaching out for an interview, even people that you're so talented to interview, even new people. They're very good. Thank you. I appreciate it. It didn't work out that way actually, but not going to say much more. Anyways, hello, welcome, Juror.
Hi, thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm good. How are you?
I'm also great. Thank you. First off, thank you for doing this. Thank you for joining us tonight.
You're welcome. I'm really nervous.
I know. Okay. And that's why I'm so glad you're doing this. Don't pay attention to the chat. I will tell you everything that they say. Any questions that they have, I will ask you. You don't have to look at it at all.
Perfect.
Just pay attention to the questions I ask you.
Okay.
And, I'll let you talk as much as you want. I mean, because you're my guest, so you can talk as much as you want.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So, first and foremost, you served on the jury of Isiah Williams.
Yes.
So, the day that you got the jury summons, how did you feel about that? Were you excited? Was your first thought of how am I going to get out of this? I don't want to do jury duty. Or were you immediately like, this, you know what, I'm excited. I want to do this.
Well, first I did not want to do it. I don't think anybody is really excited when they get summoned. I got the jury summons in March, and for Washtenaw County, we're supposed to log into a website, and it'll say like pool 1 to 150, come to court, and then like 151 to 250, you're excused. Thank you for serving. It did not go that way for our pool. All 300 people were summoned to the courthouse on May 6th. Was excited just to like, okay, let's get this done. Let's see what I can do for my civic duty.
There you go. I served on a jury about a year ago, and there was only like I think 20 of us that were there. I think I got a postcard essentially, and they said call this number the night before to see if you have to show up. And I called it Sunday night, didn't have to show up. Called it Monday night, didn't have to show up. Called it Tuesday night, then I had to show up on Wednesday. I think it was something like that. But so 300 people. There were 300 people part of the pool. Was that because, well, you might not know the answer to this. Was that because of how big the case was, and they wanted to make sure that, they went and asked all the, the jurors all the questions?
Well, I guess it was a full docket that day, so they had three cases. So they called, like the first case, they called back like 15 or 20 people. And then we waited some more, and then they called back another 15 to 20 people. And we're like, okay, I think there's one more case left. I might be free. And then they called the third case, and I was called back, and they called 30 people that time. So I was like, okay, that must be that's a pretty big case. So we went into the courtroom and we sat down, and that's when they called us. They called 12 people 14. There's 14 chairs so you can have 2 backup jurors in case someone's sick. But I was called up immediately and then sat there for a few hours.
I should have said this right out the gate. So my new friend, who I am interviewing, she was on the Isiah Williams. She was in the jury, and she still wishes to be anonymous, which is why she's not on camera, and her name's not up there. So I am, gladly adhering to her wishes. So I probably should have said that before we started, but better late than never. All right. Okay. So at what point? So they were calling you up in bunches. They called you up.
Yeah.
At what point in the process did you know what case you were there for? Was that after they selected you? They told you what you were there for?
Yeah, so after they the defense attorney and the prosecuting attorney went through the jury trying to find like the 14 people that they wanted, which took quite a while, and we had to go through the same questions every time, like, what do you do for a living? And do you live with children? They did mention that this case was about a child. They said that it was there was violence, domestic abuse, rape. A lot of people were really upset about that. I immediately thought, oh no, this is like something to do with like a minor, like a rape of a child. I don't know if I can do this. And a lot of people were excused for that reason, just because it was, I could not be biased towards, or I would have a bias towards this person no matter what. Like, so they're like, okay, you're excused. But we go into the jury with everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So I just kept like keeping that in my mind. Finally, we got the 14 people that were selected, and we were sworn in. And then we left for lunch, and then we came back, and then the case started, the trial started. And that's when we heard who it was about, and that it was a cold case, and that this happened 42 years ago. It was quite shocking. And that there was no body, there was no physical evidence. It was all circumstantial. And I was like, wow, this is heavy. This is a lot to deal with. How are we going to like solve this? Like, how could they without evidence? So that was my main concern.
Yeah, and you know what? We will get to that, but let's not jump ahead too much here.
Okay.
But so, yeah, I know I've got a lot of questions, and I'm sure everyone watching is going to have some questions too. But so they let you know the facts after they called you in, and so you showed up that morning, and you showed up that morning for jury selection. They questioned all of you, and then you just went right into starting the trial that afternoon. Is that how it worked?
Yep.
You had no time. They picked you and they're like, we're starting this right now.
Yep, we're starting today.
You know what? Good for them. Now this is for anyone that's been following the case, and especially anyone that saw the last hearing of mine. I don't know if it was the last one, but I have been covering Isiah Williams for a while. The prosecutor's office was trying to say they needed 2 to 3 weeks to do this trial. And Judge Colin kept saying, we can't. We're not pushing this trial out any further. We're not prolonging this trial. But I only have, I think he said he only had a week to do the trial. Now, I'm not asking you a question. I'm just trying to give trying to lay down the scenario for everybody, the setting. So Judge Colin knew exactly what was going on with this case. So did Judge Simpson, as you saw in the clips that I showed. But Judge Colin did not want this trial to take 3 weeks, and he kept saying, no. We have a judicial conference starting on this date. We're starting the trial on this date, and we're going to end it by this date. And so I'm guessing he did that because you didn't have to go on break for a week and come back. So I'm guessing, he stuck to the timeline that he kept saying.
Yeah, originally he said we expect that this trial is going to go 7 to 10 days, and unfortunately he had something to attend to the week after. So if we had to, we were going to have to be called back, which was fine because I could catch up on work. But he was very respectful of, we expect this case is huge. It's pretty big. And so if you have any travel plans, let me know, which may excuse you from being on the jury. Yeah.
So, side note, what did you think of Judge Conlon? Was he like a cool, down to earth judge? Was he a very strict judge?
No, he was so down to earth. He was so cool. He was very friendly. He brought us in donuts one day. He was a really fun guy, and he was really respectful of, our time. I know that we had someone that had a evening job that they needed to get to, so he was respectful of trying to break before, it got too late. And yeah, he was wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so let's go back to the trial. All right, where are we at? So you were picked. You started that afternoon. So one of the big things with Isiah Williams, and I really want to stop saying his name, because this is more about the child than it is about him. But he was the one on trial. So did he ever represent himself, or was he always? So was it the defense attorney was Kreitzer? It was Kreitzer, right?
Yeah.
That was his assigned attorney. Now I don't know if you know this, but that was his at least third, maybe fourth public defender that was assigned to him, because they kept withdrawing from his case. So did he represent himself, or did defense attorney Kreitzer represent him?
The attorney represented him. He refused to dress for court. He refused to appear, which I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently they can. So, and it wasn't him not being there. Wasn't that wasn't able to sway us in our decision. But still, yeah.
Olisa, thank you, Albie. Olisa just said her name. Thank you. I know I put it on the thumbnail. I was struggling to remember what it was, and I didn't want to say the wrong name. But Albie, thank you so much for saying the name. So, so you're told it's not allowed to sway you, but he's not there. Do you still hold that in your head, or do you actually just let it go and you know what, this isn't supposed to be part of our decision, so we're not going to allow it to impact what we're thinking?
Right. We had to let it go. It could not be a deciding factor that he was refusing to show up. I had to base my decision on what I heard from the testimony from the witnesses, but him not appearing did not sway my decision. I thought that anybody who was on trial was always in the courtroom, but apparently that you don't have to be. So I was like, okay.
But they didn't even put him on Zoom. They didn't do anything. It was just his attorney and the prosecutor, and then all the witnesses, and then you guys. I shouldn't load the questions, because all of a sudden I've got questions on questions. So was it a packed house? Were there a lot of people there watching?
There wasn't a lot of people watching. There was some news people. There were some looked like interns watching. The family would come. The witnesses, a lot of the witnesses were from out of town, so it was there weren't that many people, and it was such a cold case that I feel like a lot of people kind of forgot about Olisa. So,
which is sad. And for everyone that's just joining us that doesn't know the story, this is a missing person of over 40 years. And they charged the father. Well, it is the father, right? Well, I feel like I heard somewhere when I was doing research that he's not the biological father.
No, he's not the biological father. So Denise was pregnant with Olisa, and she didn't know that she was when Isiah kidnapped her from her job and in Michigan, and then kidnapped her to Cincinnati. And that's when she found out that she was pregnant. I guess that was while he was in prison. So um, the prosecuting attorney liked to call it raindrops. Like there's a raindrop right there. Olisa was not his biological daughter. He was like using her as like a lever, as a form of power. So he wasn't the biological father, but when he came to the hospital, he promised that he would change and that he would, marry her and everything would be wonderful. And she believed him, because love conquers all. No matter if you're like in a terrible abusive relationship, you can't fault the victim. It's really difficult to get out of that situation. She put him on the birth certificate, even though he was not Olisa's biological daughter.
Yeah, that's what I thought I remember. I actually think that was part of the intro video. I think that's the first I heard it, where he wasn't actually the biological father, but he was on the birth certificate. Okay. Tough. And why they had to bring it to Cincinnati? Like I've got Cincinnati in the background, and they had to bring it here. So I don't know why they had to bring us into this case. But so where were we? So he didn't show up at all.
No.
He wasn't on Zoom.
No.
So how? And you weren't allowed to have that affect you. I don't know how you can mentally just ignore that. I don't, but good for you. That must have been hard. So you didn't see him at all?
No, I did not know that he was there in the courthouse at all at any moment. I thought that he was still in jail, not in the courthouse. Yeah,
and there's if you go back and watch through all of his court hearings, he was disruptive. He never agreed with anything that was going on. He always had to have the last word. So yeah, it's unfortunate that he didn't even want to be there for his own trial, though. He that just looks to me as someone who he honestly takes no responsibility of anything that happened.
Well, that started with the traumatic brain injury that he said he experienced from his car crash in 1994, and there was no evidence that he experienced a traumatic brain injury in the car accident. He was slightly concussed, and the next day he had his memory. He was asking for people, but then all of a sudden, when his children ask him, "Where's Olisa?" he brings up, "I have a traumatic brain injury," and that's something that he still talked about to this day, that he doesn't remember being married to Denise. He thinks that someone forged his signature on the marriage certificate. It's just something that he's completely blocked out of his mind. He can remember the good memories with his children, but whenever they ask him about, abusing their mother, he forgets. I don't remember.
Yeah, I remember that part of the preliminary examination where like his kids and I think Alyssa's mom were witnesses. He wasn't allowed to question them, even though he was during the exam he was representing himself, but he wasn't allowed to question them. And it was a big scene, but a lot of what they kept saying was, you remember all the good. You remember everything good that happened to you, but somehow you remember all the bad things you did. And yeah, that's not a defense. You can't just say, "Oh, well, I had this car crash and can't remember things." There was something with like a 2x4. It was like right after his car crash or right before his car crash. Like he assaulted somebody with like a plank of wood.
Yeah, so that was his first wife, Elizabeth.
Okay.
it was 1984, and he picked Elizabeth up to take her to work, and he just started acting crazy. And I guess she was scared, so she tried to like get out of the car while the car was still moving, and she tried to run away, and he took the car and swerved it around, and she was running through the back of a house that had construction going on, and he came after her and chased after her and found a 7-foot 2x4 and started beating her with it. And that's when he was arrested, and he was put in prison for 9 years for that assault.
Yeah, so this is the guy that's on trial for this missing child.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to the trial. We're talking about a lot of backstory. So he wasn't there at all.
No.
Going through, so we've gone through the juror questions. You've already been assigned a position on the jury. During opening statements, what was your first thought during opening statements when, I know the defense attorney. I don't know the prosecutor that well. I haven't seen her that much because she's an attorney general. She's not often on YouTube, but the prosecutor or the defense attorney is, and she's good. She's good. She's straight to the point. So just listen to the opening statements. What was your first thought? Was your first thought? You know what? I'm not going to put ideas in your head. So what was your first thought listening to opening statements?
Well, obviously the prosecuting attorney had a big job trying to convict this man with only circumstantial evidence. So she made it pretty clear with raindrops. There's going to be so many raindrops that you cannot deny that he did it. And I was like, yeah, wow, okay, well, good luck to you. And then the defense attorney, she seemed very. I've never seen her before, so I was like, what's going on? She didn't seem into it. It almost felt like she was delaying. After every word she said, there would be like a very long pause. And towards the end of the week, every time she started talking or like re-examined the witness, we just kind of like took a big sigh and we're like, okay, we're going to be here for a while. It was really difficult. It was frustrating. It was a really actually frustrating part of the case because a lot of her questions were just, and I didn't even know, the jury didn't know that she had been asked to be released from the case twice.
Yeah, she tried.
And now I understand why. I didn't know obviously didn't know anything about Isiah or his past. So it was interesting. There was night and day.
Yeah, so she was his third, if not fourth defense attorney. He was given probably one of the best public defenders right off the back with Torshov Feaster. And he asked for Torshov Feaster to be removed. And he is an amazing defense attorney. And, he would have shown up. Right? So what you just said where she was just she didn't seem into it.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't want to be there. And, it just, after being belittled by your client for so long, and then he doesn't even show up to trial, I can see how, as a defense attorney, like I'm a defense attorney, but I can see, how, I'm spending all this effort, all this time defending this person that won't even show up to trial. I can see how that can be a little deflating as a defense. I keep saying as a defense attorney. I'm not a defense attorney. So hopefully, what I'm saying is making sense. Somebody asked, when was this trial? This was earlier this month. It was right at the beginning of May, right?
It was May 6th, Monday through Friday, May 10th.
Yeah, so you guys nailed it out in a week.
Yeah.
Did a 40 plus, I think it was 42 years at this point where she disappeared.
Yep, it was 42. I remember the prosecuting attorney mentioned in her closing statement 42 Mother's Days that Denise was without Olisa. And that just killed me.
That would have got to me too. That's a good prosecutor right there. To turn it that way. Not just saying 42 years, 42 Mother's Day. Man.
Yeah.
That was a good move. Okay, so I asked about opening statements. We're kind of going through the trial. You said, Kreitzer. It is Kreitzer, right? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Kreitzer.
Okay, all right. I was making sure I was. How many witnesses were there? I know going back and watching the prelim, there were a lot of people, but there were family members that, they don't know what happened. The witnesses were people that knew him and the last people that saw Olisa. But there's no actual witness to the crime. Take out the family members, because I know, that his sister or his niece, plus, the mother, I obviously know that they testified. Outside of that, what kind of expert witnesses were there that tried to pin, not trying to pin this on him, obviously. I don't think there's, without a shadow of a doubt, anyone think that he's innocent of this. But I just want to know the strategy that the prosecutor took. So outside of the family witnesses, who else was brought up to testify?
So they brought up they work for, I don't remember, the Michigan State Police. They brought in someone who does identification, tries to map for missing people. They brought in the person from the, it's been almost a month, so I'm not remembering these anymore. The national, for missing children, that huge database that was created 2 years after Olisa was missing. It was the National Database of Missing and Exploited Children. They brought in someone from there. They brought in the doctor that was on call when he was in his car accident. They brought in domestic violence experts that have worked with women in domestic violence situations for over 30 years. They brought in a lot of expert testimonies, just experts in their field, just so we could, as the jury, understand the type of violence that all these women experience from Isiah, throughout, from the 70s, well, actually from the 60s all the way to the 90s, his history of violence against women. And it was heartbreaking. And it was just, they basically tried to bring in everybody that could confirm she's not here anymore. There is a database with billions of images from all over the internet, and anything would have popped up, her face. They got a couple lead. They got a lead in a different country, and the attorney Bennett's was that she could never get a passport because after she went missing, they closed it off. So she couldn't use her social security number. It would be flagged, because she's been a missing child for so long. They brought in people from just the websites that try to find missing children and missing people, and it's just, they brought in a lot of experts to prove that there was no way that Olisa was still alive, because she would have been found by now.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, one of the things that I like to do, and some people don't like that I do this, but I like to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Okay.
I posed this question when I first heard the story in one of my videos. Didn't get a good response there when I did it. You don't have to answer this at all. You don't have to answer this question. but she went missing in the 80s. Is there any possible chance that, some just random person found her? They couldn't find who her parents were. They had no idea because the computer systems weren't as extravagant as they are now. Couldn't find any next of kin or anything, put her up for adoption, and gave her new papers. And she's living a perfectly normal life right now. Is there any potential chance of that? After sitting through the jurors, sitting through all the expert witnesses, do you think, even without a shadow of a doubt, 0.001%, do you think that's possible?
Not at all. I really don't.
That means the prosecution did a really good job.
Yeah.
That's the question I asked when I first heard this story. Is happened in the 80s. What are the chances that Olisa is going by, pick random female name? I don't know why Mary's the first name that comes to my head. Mary lives in, Montana and has no idea she's even part of this case, but she is. That was my first thought. Like, is that possible? So that is what the prosecution had to, you had to think 0% of that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And with the circumstantial evidence that the expert witnesses provided, it was just, there was just no way. Even with like the social media, like something would have triggered, and the system has Denise's DNA, and that's been on file ever since DNA became a thing. So if she tried to get any type of passport, or if she was in any type of database, her image would have been triggered. They would have because they've done 2 age recreations since then. And I don't remember when the last one was done, but it would have pulled something.
I agree. But I'm just saying that's what the prosecution was up against.
Yeah.
Rebecca, she was less than 1 when she went missing. So it was before her first birthday.
Yeah.
The last time that she was seen was a birthday party for Isaiah's, I don't remember, niece, nephew, something. It was a birthday party that they went to. That was the last time she was seen. You know more than I do. So if you want to,
Verna, his youngest daughter, from Elizabeth, from his first. Thank you. Verna was his youngest daughter from his first marriage with Elizabeth, and she was turning 16. So this was like a really big deal. And so those dates, they are very strong in their mind. And they said that he took her from Denise in April when she was 8 months old, and then showed up at Elizabeth's house when his 2 daughters were there, Kimberly and Verna, and that was July 9th. He brought Olisa to them, and one of the witnesses described her as being grubby. And so they cleaned her up, they gave her a bath, they brushed her hair, and that's where the missing photo of Olisa, that's Kimberly took that, and she was, I think, 17, or yeah. That was the last time they ever saw her alive, was when he stopped by.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks after Verna's birthday, it was kind of towards the end of July, Isaiah came to Elizabeth and said, I need to get out of town, and went to Alabama, asked Elizabeth, well, probably didn't ask, told Elizabeth to take him to the Detroit Gray bus station to Alabama, because he had to get out of town. And so that's a big thing. You're fleeing. The family confirmed, we have no relatives in Alabama at that time. So why did you go to Alabama?
And Olisa wasn't with him when he was fleeing.
No, she was gone.
I know have we talked about what his story is about how she disappeared yet? I know it was in the video that I played at the start, but I don't think we've talked about it.
No.
His story. Do you want to say it? You're
Oh.
the expert here. I just watched the videos.
So, what happened is that he took her. Denise wanted to get a divorce from Isiah, obviously, for major reasons. She's been trying to escape him for a really long time. There was multiple reports of her going to a shelter seeking immediate assistance, like within 2 months, and that hurt. That the system failed her. So she had this baby, and
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick.
Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, you're fine. I just want to make sure everyone is aware. Denise is the mother of the child.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page. All right, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure everyone did that. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
She was trying to flee from Isiah, and so obviously she took Olisa with her, and he came to her friend's house in Cincinnati and took Olisa, and then he fled to Michigan because his mother was ill. And that was there were witnesses that saw him at the hospital in like June and July, and then all of a sudden like kind of disappeared. I totally forgot what the question was.
I kind of forgot what the question was too. No, what was the story about what was the story Isiah said that how she disappeared?
I'm so sorry.
Because his defense member first and foremost, but he says he didn't have anything to do with her disappearance,
right?
But it's really hard to say, he had anything to do with her death because there's no body. To this day, there's still no body, so it's very difficult to charge someone with murder, which is part of what why we love that you're up here. Anyways, I've talked enough, so You can answer the question because I know how you're going to answer the question. I'm in desperate need of more coffee, but so I'm going to walk away for 10 seconds. But so just say what is what is his story about her disappearance? But I'll be back in 10 seconds. You can keep going.
Okay. So when Denise was in Michigan trying to get Olisa back, she finally was able to get sole custody of Olisa. So the court was telling Isiah that he needed to bring Olisa to the court. You need to surrender Olisa to her custodial mother. And he refused. And he would tell her things like, I have Olisa, you can come and like pick her up. And she would go, and Olisa wouldn't be there, and Denise would end up getting like beaten. And so this is so difficult.
You can take your time. We're not in a rush.
Okay. So he finally showed up at court, and they were like, "Where's Olisa?" And he refused to tell them where she was. And so he was held in contempt of court and put in jail. And he was in jail for, 30 or 60 days when finally he decided to say what happened in front of the judge. He said that he had fallen asleep at Island Park in Ann Arbor because he had been drinking and smoking weed. And when he woke up, the door was open and Olisa was gone. One of the weird things is that when Denise would ask, "Where's Olisa?" he would say, "Across the water." And that just still gives me chills. I don't understand what that means. Nobody understands what that means. Across the water. I don't know. So that's what he said, that she was taken from his car.
Which obviously doesn't make sense because he was passed out.
Mm-hmm.
So how does she know? He knows she was taken. That's another part of the story of his that doesn't make sense. Just a little pep talk from my good friend Jedi. she wanted to send you some, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
So, Jenna, thank you so much for the super chat. That is very kind.
That makes me feel so good. I'm not even looking at chat because I'm so nervous.
You're doing a great job. I am sorry that I walked away from you for a second.
No, it's okay. I was just rambling.
Yeah, well, I knew what you were going to say because we talked about this. Was it last week when we talked?
Yeah.
And I knew how you were going to answer that question. And I've been looking at my coffee mug for the last 10 minutes. Like, how do I walk away? I can't walk away, but I need more coffee. But I live alone, so I don't have go gadget arms. Like, I'm going to ask a question I know the answer to, and then I'm going to just disappear for 10 seconds. But that was still rude of me to do, and I apologize for doing that. Yeah, this is just such a sad story, and the fact that he has taken no responsibility, like even to the point where, he was arrested in Chicago on a bus, and he was saying that he got kidnapped. That the police kidnapped him out of Chicago, Illinois, and just the level of so let me rephrase it this way. I have no idea how he was able to, even for the preliminary exam, represent himself, because you saw it. So for everyone that doesn't know, that's how we met. So she reached out to me and said, like, hey, I was on this jury. We were told about how much of not a nuisance. You were much more kind than I would have been, but just how much he disrupted the court during his preliminary exam and how that kept coming up in the trial. So, and I found the video and I sent it to you, and that's when I'm like, hey, do you mind coming up and talking? And I'm very appreciative you're here, and everyone in the chat loves that you're here.
Thank you.
That's how this happened. Is she reached out to find the preliminary exam. So, yeah, no, it's awesome that you're here. But yeah, this guy, and as a court watcher, and a lot of people struggle with this, especially watching court a lot, is we have kind of gone away from innocent until proven guilty, right? Where we have kind of gone to, you're guilty because the charge, we don't like you, and we start judging you instantly just from our perspective watching. And so it's something that goes through all of our heads. Like, no, we have to calm down. We have to calm down. The charges are nasty, but we have no idea. But he was the kind of guy that the first time he came up on screen, like, nobody believed a word he said. And it's like when they started reading off the details, like during his PCC and then during his exam, it's like, gosh, man, this poor girl. And that's when, we started looking up details, and I couldn't imagine being in that jury. Good for you. Good for you. And again, like, not only were you strong enough to stand on that jury, you're up here talking about it, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. It was difficult because, like you said, innocent until proven guilty. And so the first couple of days, afterwards, the trial, or after each day, I would just I would cry because I'm like, how can I really don't want to find. I want him to be guilty, but they're not showing that evidence yet, that circumstantial evidence that is like kind of proving that he did it. And so I was really, really nervous about providing a not guilty verdict. I really, that was going to be something that I was going to struggle with. But as the expert witnesses came through, the more witnesses, it just kind of, the circumstantial evidence piled, just like Attorney Bennett said, raindrops. It was a storm. Thankfully yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna keep working our way through the trial. We haven't actually got to this point yet. For everyone that doesn't know, would you like to let him know the charge? First off, let's say what were the charges he was charged with, and what you guys decided. Let's say that. Let's phrase it that way.
Okay, so he was. It was first degree premeditated murder, first degree felony murder, which included kidnapping, and two other things that I can't remember, second degree murder, or not guilty. We could choose first-degree premeditated, or first-degree felony, or second-degree, or not guilty. Or we could choose first-degree premeditated and first-degree felony. So, am I supposed to tell you what we've?
Yeah. So
Well,
those are, I should have started the interview off with, in that video, I should have said, this is what he's charged with. I forgot to do that. And I'm realizing that, like, if people don't know, like, they don't know. So, and I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page right now. So yeah, he was charged with, with murder. And, YouTube doesn't like that word, but I don't care. This is a sensitive subject and I'm not going to hold back my words. But that's what he was charged with, multiple different ways. So you could have, if you didn't find him guilty of one, you could have done, found him guilty of the lesser.
yeah.
So now let's move into deliberation. Now we've gone through the trial, deliberation. First and foremost, before anyone that can Google his name will see what you guys decided. But how long did you deliberate for?
2 hours.
2-hour deliberation on a murder trial. Now, that speaks volumes. So there was no shadow of a doubt that you guys were convicting him of murder at that point. So you guys found him guilty. Now, obviously, it would be you'd be innocent or guilty if you were, or guilty. It's guilty or not guilty. But so you found him guilty, and which count did you find him guilty on?
First degree premeditated and first degree felony.
And the kidnapping charge too, right?
Yeah, that was a part of the felony, the first
Okay.
degree felony.
Okay. So for everyone who doesn't know, Isiah Williams he's in his 80s now, isn't he?
I think he's 78.
78. I don't know where I saw 80. I thought that maybe one of the articles I read when I was doing a little research over the last couple of days, I thought I saw 82, but I could have made that up. So yeah, 78. He's up there. I mean, even if he got, a slap on the wrist, and only sentenced to 10 years in jail, it's most likely the rest of his life in jail.
Right.
But so 2 hours deliberation, you found him guilty. What was that jury room like? So you walked back there. I mean, even 2 hours. So you guys were discussing. So was it 2 hours of just kind of walking through all the details of the case, or was there any holdouts on, I don't really think he was guilty of premeditated, so I'm going to go down one level. So what was that? What was that like?
Well, the majority found, everybody would agreed that first degree felony. Absolutely. It checked all the boxes. But where we were held up at was premeditated. So that's what we took most time deliberating was it premeditated? Did he plan this? Even if it takes just 2 seconds, it's considered premeditated. So we came to the conclusion that it was premeditated.
Yeah, and you weren't there to see the look on his face when you guys, announced the verdict.
No, but I did when the foreman read out the verdict, and Denise, the biggest sigh of gratefulness and just a long, long road that she's been down, finally got justice for her baby.
You're getting emotional just thinking about it again.
I can hear her. I can hear her just sob, just that grateful sob. The what she's been wanting to hear for 42 years.
It's. I couldn't imagine. And then I couldn't imagine being that coward that wouldn't even show up to. There's just so many levels of this case that are disgusting, and I applaud, you and the rest of the jurors that had to sit through all the details of this case, because we don't. All we see is him playing circus games in court, and that's why we started watching him, because, you know, as a court watcher, he was entertaining to watch because he didn't abide by court rules and he thought he was above everything. And then when he started talking, he didn't make sense. So it was entertaining to watch. And then you listen to the details of what he did. This is no longer entertaining. Like, I don't know why, you know, we're even talking about this, because you don't hear a lot of the facts of the case when you just watch a 2-minute, you know, hearing here and there. But this is insane, and I do not envy you. Like, those memories that are in your head. And that, again, thank you so much for being up here, and I understand why you're emotional. And even when we talked a week ago, you were emotional about it. And so we'll finish with this. And I'm trying not to bring up what we talked about privately, but you said something that really made me feel good about the whole court system, is how Judge Colin and the rest of everybody, after everything was finished.
Mhm.
So I do want to make sure to bring this up, and I just want to hear your input on, you know, everything's finished. You announced your verdict. You walked back into the back room, and Judge Colin came back there and started talking to you guys.
Okay. So we were able to ask him all the questions about the case, and he said that he was really nervous, that there were a few times he was scared that Isiah was going to cause a mistrial, because if we saw him for 1 single second, that it would have caused the mistrial and we had to start over, which I had no idea. So they did a great job at keeping him away from the jury. So that was interesting. I didn't realize that, you know, oh, he really was here the entire time. But then afterwards, we were all emotional. We asked if Denise was still here and if we could go say hello. And so they went and got her, and we all went into the courtroom, and it was her and her husband, James, and her daughter, Kimberly, and the prosecuting attorney, and the detective Iverson, who was the original detective that opened the case in 2011. And then I forget what the other current detective's name was, but we were all able to give them hugs. And I came up to Denise and I gave her a hug, and I told her Happy Mother's Day. And they were just, thank you. We got thank yous from everybody. I got hugs from the prosecuting attorney, from the detective. It was really emotional, and it just felt like some closure, because I just really wanted to hug her and give Olisa some justice.
Olisa got her justice. Okay. I'm not allowed to get emotional. This is my show. I'm not allowed to get emotional. Yeah, Olisa finally got her justice. They found him guilty, and we are still a month away from his sentencing. So it's, what is it, July 10th? Did I get that date right?
Yes.
Okay, July 10th is when he's sentenced.
Yeah.
And I am hoping that Judge Colin puts that on YouTube, because I'm gonna be live streaming that. I'm gonna be waiting for it, and I am going to be probably the one person that's going to be celebrating that day to see. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people, but I shouldn't say celebrating. But I'm like, this is such a sad story, and you know, it's finally over. You know, and at least I finally got a little justice. So she was less than 1 year old. Come on, guy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to end this before I start crying. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? I've been reading the chat, and pretty much there haven't been a lot of questions. Most people have just been saying, you know, thank you so much for jumping up here and telling the story. Everyone's been very happy, or not happy is not the right word tonight, but everyone's been very supportive of you, and you know, they're thankful you're here to tell your story.
Thank you. for your support.
But but there hasn't. Mike, really? Jody asked a question before, but let's see. Jedi asked a question, but do we know what the possible sentences are? Is that what Jody asked? I can scroll up to try to find her question, but if it was something about sentences, I mean, it was convicted of first-degree premeditated murder and
Life.
kidnapping.
Yeah, life.
Yeah, he's getting life. I mean, even if I'm wrong, because I said he was 82, you said he was 78.
Yeah.
A life sentence is at minimum like 76 years, so he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. Now, I don't think Michigan's
we don't have the death sentence.
Thank you. Death penalty.
Or death
That's
penalty.
what I was looking for.
A death sentence.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's got so many health issues, and he's borderline senile already. Yeah. He's already 90% out the door. But it's not about him. It's about Olisa and the family. Olisa. Sorry, I said Olisa. Olisa. It's about Olisa and the family.
Olisa.
It is Olisa. Okay.
It's Olisa.
Olisa. So yeah, no. So part of my language, but fuck that guy. He's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. The important part is before he passed away, the family got the justice they needed and deserved. So that's what matters here. But he's never getting out. He won't. And you know what? He got kidnapped by the police, so he wasn't going to get out anyways. Jody asked about the DP as a the DP. The DP. Oh, the death penalty. Okay, sorry, I didn't. I was not when I hear DP, I did not think that's the guy brain. I was not thinking death penalty. You know what? We're all adults here. This is a sensitive subject. I'm not going to monetize this tonight, so you guys don't have to watch what you're saying. We've already mentioned a lot of things that YouTube isn't going to like, and this isn't. I'm not doing this for clicks and views. I'm doing this for to get the story out there, and so everyone can watch this and enjoy this, and hear from the inside. This is a very big story that I kind of got swept under the rug in Michigan. I'm not gonna lie. When I was looking up info on it, there wasn't a lot. So when you reached out to me and I was going back and looking through the trial, there wasn't a lot of information about the trial except for the conviction. So Dr. Pepper. Yeah, I got coffee. I don't need a Dr. Pepper. All right. Anyone have any final questions? Do you have any questions for us? I mean, you're awesome. Thank you so much for jumping up here.
Thank you.
I know. I for everyone that doesn't know, I kind of had to beg her to come up here. I didn't beg her, but she originally said no. And when I said, you know what, we can keep you completely anonymous. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to say your name. I won't say your name or anything. If you would like that. And she's like, you know what, let's meet. That's what it was. Like, let's meet, let's talk, and then I'll decide. And yeah, so that's how we did it. So I appreciate you coming up, and yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't have to bribe you. You just came up. Janet asked, would you be willing to serve again? Would you do jury duty after that case? Oh man.
Yes. If I was summoned, yeah. It was really difficult, but I don't know. I'm really grateful that it was horrible. You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think there's anything else. I've been scrolling back, and I don't think. Let's see, Libby. Hope he finally tells the mother where the baby. Yeah, that's what we're all hoping. And you said that to me privately that hopefully he has this jail time experience and
yeah.
And he says where she is. He's the only one that knows.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully he does that. But I think he's borderline senile already. I hope he does, but I don't see that. I really don't. What is this? Please relay Rebecca's message. Make sure the juror debrief when you need to take care. Oh, yeah, that is important. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. You went through a lot. That was an incredible amount of facts to throw at you in a week. So make sure you're good, right? That was to you. That was to you.
Thanks.
My community wants to make sure you're okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna let you go. I told you this would be between an hour and 15 minutes, so we're at hour 10.
All right.
So I think we've nailed it. Do you have any questions you want to ask us before you take off, or you're just ready to go?
I don't have any questions, but I really appreciate the experience and being able to talk about Olisa.
I appreciate you coming up here and talking about Olisa as well. It's such a hard story to listen to, and I am very happy that you took a chance on me and decided to do this. All right. Well, you have a great evening. Thank you so much for taking part in this tonight, and keep in touch. Keep in touch. I'm gonna check in on you every once in a while and make sure you're okay, because my community will make sure that I keep in touch with you. But yeah. So if you ever need anything, reach out. We're always here. If you want to, jump up and watch and laugh at some stupid people in court, you can always do that too. We can turn the script and you go from the worst case you've ever seen to some funny stuff. So
that would be nice.
Yeah. Well, have a great night, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that was heavy. Or laugh at us, right, Sparkle? Right? Is he out? No. He was convicted of first-degree premeditated murder. About 3 weeks ago was when the trial was, so he was convicted, and his sentencing is in July. He is not out on bond. But Chen, it's really good to see you. Sorry, I just saw your question. I don't. Let's see. I don't really have anything else. Let's see. Do I have anything that I could play to kind of lighten the mood? Just for, let's see. I don't have any videos ready. Sorry, guys. I was hoping I had maybe a funny video, a turtle video, right? You guys in your turtle videos. All right. I'm gonna call it a night. Before I call it a night, let's see who's live. Let's see who can raid. Anybody? I have nobody on my list. Absolutely nobody on my list. So, all right. I'm gonna take off. Thank you. I mean, when I do interviews, I put my tie on. Put my shirt and tie on when I do interviews. I will always respect the people that I'm interviewing. So it's always going to be a respect thing. I will do my best to present myself as a professional when I interview people. I mean, they're taking time out of their day to jump on my channel, so always do that. Oh, I can do that. You know what? We'll do the 12 Waffle Song as the outro. How about that? Because I've got nothing else to play. I don't have the court video ready, so. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, Jedi, thank you so much. I will end with this before I play the 12 Awful Song as my outro. But I will be in St. Joseph County in 2 weeks. So if anybody wants to help with the travel costs, because it's going to be a big trip. It's going to be at least one overnight. So it's not just, gas money going back and forth. It's going to be a little bit more expensive. If you guys want to help out with that, my link tree is in the description. Every little bit helps. So I would appreciate it. And thank you. Yeah, Jedi, I appreciate you saying that. All right. We're going to do our outro as the Twat Waffles theme song. And then let's go hang out in Discord. Just got to find it. Usually I have it preloaded. Did not have it preloaded tonight. I was not ready for this. All right. Twat Waffles United.